Hi guys, welcome back to Iggy's Toy Parade and Soldier Review. This is your host Iggy. And tonight I would like to share with you some Revolutionary War era figures produced by Marx Toys. However, the ones that I'm showing you tonight are actually reproductions of Marx figures. And also some figures by Accurate Toys Limited, which is a British company. I don't think that's in existence anymore. I looked them up online the other night and the night before, and I just couldn't find any current information about Accurate Toys, which is a pity because they're very fine figures. I showed you the British ones the other night, and now I'm showing you the Americans. So let's just jump in and see what we got. I think tonight we're going to start off with the Accurate figures. So let me get a little bit closer on that. And that's these figures on this first step here. The ones that you see in the background are reproductions of Marx figures. Now, I believe I purchased these in the late 1980s from Stone Castle Imports, and they came to me not in a box, but in a plastic bag, and there was like 25 figures in the bag, and it was tied off with a little twisty thing. And then later they started showing up in stores in boxes. So I believe Stonecastle Imports was acting as a wholesaler and impaling. Oh man, not impaling. However, you never know. Uh, not imploring, importing. There you go. I implore you to forget what I just said. Okay, so these were brought into America by Stonecastle Imports. And like I mentioned a minute ago, they were later distributed to hobby stores and small stores such as drug stores or the chemists if you live in Britain. And you can see that these sculpts, like the British figures, are very nicely done. So I'm going to get as close as I can without it getting blurry and move along here so that you can see the figures. This would be representative of a Minuteman, classic Minuteman, that we have come to associate a figure dressed like this as being a Minuteman. And then Colonials. This figure here has presented me with a mystery, which I'll describe to you in just a moment. And these figures are similar to like Daniel Boone type of characters. However, you can't see what I'm talking about because this guy's in the way. So let me take him down. And you can see, at first I thought he was wearing a kilt. And then as I looked closer, I realized, well, if he's wearing a kilt, he has very saggy skin. So I guess he's wearing pants with a long hunting shirt with a fringe on it. I have no idea what he's shooting at. And this guy here is, I guess, putting powder in his flash pan. You can see his powder horn. It's kind of awkward the way he's holding that rifle. He must be pretty strong to hold it steady like that. And I have some figures down here to share with you. Here's that guy again. Let's move him out of the way. And this fellow looks like a Quaker, which is probably not too authentic because the Quakers refused to fight. They were not going to indulge in violence, although some of them did support the Revolutionary War efforts. Now, there's a lot of propaganda about the American Revolution. Um, July 4th, of course, is celebrated in the United States, and only 1/3 of Americans at that time supported the war. Another third could care less and or were loyalists, and the last third, of course, uh, were just completely indifferent. So you had loyalists, you had people that didn't care one way or another, and then you had the people that actually supported the war. Now, some of you may wonder what happened to loyalists after the war. Did Britain just give up on them the way France did with their um, French colonists in Canada? Canada traded Quebec and Montreal for some spice islands. And so the Quebecois are probably still a little bit bitter about that they were given up on by the mother country. However, Britain didn't do that. And in peace negotiations, they wanted the Loyalists to be treated fairly. And a vast majority of the Loyalists moved to Canada after the war, and that's how we get Anglo Canada as a result of the end of the Revolutionary War. And we got a couple figures in a different color. They did come in gray and a slightly. There was another color. I don't see it here now. I guess it's this one right up front here. Sort of a grayish blue color. And over here we have some Marx Grenadiers, British Grenadiers from the Revolutionary period. And a number of them that I bought were damaged because they're a somewhat hard plastic. And you can see here on these two figures charging with their rifles. The barrels have been broken off. And we have two officers waving their swords, only the swords are broken off. And that has been a problem with the harder plastics in storage. The heat and cold affects them, and the results are not very good, unfortunately. I don't know if I'll be able to repair them, but I saved the little parts that I found, so perhaps in the future I can fix those. Now, the Marx figures were introduced for the first time in 1957. Marx produced 6 different themed sets for the Revolutionary War. What I found odd is I was going through the Sears Catalog that I have, which is a compilation of various years from 1951 to 1969, and only could find a couple of examples of the Revolutionary War. Now, in 1957, Disney put out a movie called Johnny Tremaine, which was based on a book of the same name by Esther Forbes. And I think her book was published in 55 or something like that. And so I thought, well, there should be a Johnny Tremaine playset. And I could not find one in my Sears catalog. So that indicates to me that the catalog is missing pages. You know, it's not a complete selection of pages from the boys' toy section. Anyway, since I'm talking about Marx, That's these guys up here. And I had mentioned to you that I wanted to share something about this fella here. And that is, I found this guy with the accurate figures, and I found one with the Marx figures. And I'm like, what is going on? Check him out. There he is, the exact same figure. It's not just that it looks like it, it is the same figure. So, but my theory is, and I can't either prove or disprove the theory, is that, they had these figures in bins at Stone Castle Imports, and they just scooped them up and threw them into bags to ship them out. And perhaps there was some figures that got mixed up that way. Or it could be that these were actually copied. I doubt it, but it was kind of interesting when I found this guy amongst the Marx figures and this guy with the accurate figures. There's also two other figures that I found. The Quaker fella who looks kind of like Benjamin Franklin there. I also found him with the Marx figures. I got kind of confused, so I moved him down with the accurate figures. And also this guy kneeling and firing. Where'd he go? There he is. That's the accurate figure, and he's also, well, I guess I moved him down here now. Maybe that's how they got mixed up in the first place. People looking at, oh, this must go with this was set or whatever. Now, if you haven't seen Johnny Tremaine, it's worth a watch. I think they may have filmed it in Britain because Disney was trying to bypass England's laws about showing films in England had to be made in England, and also it's a complicated story that I've already forgotten the details of it. But Buena Vista was formed to distribute Disney films, I think, in America that were made in Britain, like Treasure Island and Johnny Tremaine and others. Now, I think it's great that they made them in England because I think the English do a much better job with filming historical movies than. Now, they're not always accurate. They're just like Hollywood in that regard, but not as bad. Um, like films like Zulu took a lot of artistic license, although it's a very exciting and watchable film. I'm sure that everyone watching this has seen Zulu probably 100 times, and it's a great movie, but it's not historically accurate or rigidly accurate. Zulu Dawn was slightly better, but even that film took a couple liberties, but not as many as Zulu. How did I get off on Zulu when I'm talking about the Revolutionary War? Anyway, there's also English books available. Like this book here is by a British author, and I enjoyed reading it because I like to see what the British had to say about the revolution. And I found it to be quite good. And this book here is a British company, Minute Arms series by Osprey Publication, and they're excellent. I have, I think, about 40 books on all sorts of different subjects, so I recommend those to you too. And I enjoyed paging through this as I was looking at these figures. Well, that's all I got for you this time, guys. Um, I think next I'm going to show you some pirates. I found a couple bags of pirates, and I thought I would show those to you next time. But for now, thanks for coming along on the ride, and I hope you have a good evening. And as usual, Iggy thanks the members of the Iggy Army. Keep soldiering on. Remember to take your things out of storage, enjoy them, and perhaps even add to it. It's still possible to get things. The golden age is over, but at least you can still find some things on eBay. All right, so at this point, I'm going to say adios.